what inspired you to create this album, to create this single, The Middle? What inspired you?
The Middle it's interesting because The Middle is part of a larger collective, right? But with marketing nowadays, I'm really debating whether or not I'm going to release my full album, right? And so initially I was thinking, okay, I would just drop The Middle, market it for about a month and, maybe 4 or 6 weeks as a prelude to the album that, is coming out. But then I started talking to my team and it was like, well, the attention span nowadays, right, with music is quick, right? And so I'm like, well, maybe I could just drop The Middle as its own one song album, right? Just like I did for Unapologetic. And that's not saying that all of my content will then be just one song, but it is something to think about in terms of just, trying to be more creative in terms of just the marketing and elongating, right, the content that I have. Because I'm always writing, I'm always in the studio, I'm always, but I'm still debating that, right? So for now, that's why I call The Middle a project. I don't say a single because it may end up just be by itself, and then I'll release maybe another song or another 2 songs or a 3-song EP or whatever, right? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
In terms of what inspired me for The Middle, just the project, right? So I wanted to show people that are new to me, right? Because people from Chicago, or people around the world, I mean, I've toured internationally, etc. People who know of my work, either as Young Flame or as Tonie, they rocking with me, right? They team Tonie all the way. It's all good. But for new people, when you look at just a lot of the female rappers that are out now, which are, amazing, right? It's a different style than me, right? So it's a different style. It's a different sort of, and instead of me trying to say, well, I didn't like female rap in general. I'm a lover of, like, whoever is doing it. Thank you. Right. Because we fall so hard just to get in the game. Right. And to stay prevalent, which is why I think the queens like MC Light and Queen Latifah and Bahamadia and, Moni Love, and the list can go on. Right. Yo-Yo, etc. Right. But I wanted The Middle just to say, listen, The Middle could be a space. It could be a moment in time. It could be a feeling. As long as this boss energy, like whatever you're doing, meet me there. Right. So that's why I was like, yada day, yada da, yada. Meet me in the middle, right? In the middle of excellence, in the middle of the best that you can be, in the middle of who you are, when you are, where you are. Meet me there as long as you're exhibiting qualities that fit that criteria, which is elite, which is excellence, which is right. And so lyrically, I feel like I'm doing that, right? And staying in my space and even above my comfort level of just knocking people upside the head with just lyrical ability, right? But also just, I want people to hear the live instrumentation and the music that's being, driven. Shout out to h.e.r, who's the producer of the track. And then visually, right? Like I'm working with boss people visually. So, shout out to Sholette.
Beautiful video, by the way. I was taken away by that.
So, thank you. So it's just like from creation to the visual to just everything, The Middle hopefully exudes just excellence. And so that I wanted to write something where once you heard it, the takeaway was, if you didn't know me, like, okay, let me see what else she got. Like she got, right. And thus far that has been the feedback. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, we're grateful for you to dropping something like this. It's kind of like a female anthem. It could be anybody's anthem. It really could be anybody's anthem. Meet me in the middle. It's like, hey, I'm in the gray area. I'm not the left. I'm not the right. I'm right here. I'm right in the middle. I'm
in the center, right? I'm in the center of where I need to be. And that's not even just necessarily musically. You can have someone who has no musical background that hopefully can listen to it and feel like I'm here, like I'm in this space in my life. If people don't even think that deep about it and they just feel like it's just a catchy hook. It's just something to bob to. I'm okay with that as well, right? So,
for me, if I'm in my car and I'm just driving down, down the Florida traffic, I'm going to be like, yo, hey, yo, can y'all just meet me in the middle? Just meet me right smack dab right there. Hey,
That's it. That's
yes.
it. It's right. It's right in the sweet spot. It's right in the sweet spot. And then create your own lane from that, right? I mean, I think for me, musically and just all other areas of my life or whatever, it's always been a situation where I wanted to be the best that I can be in my element, like right in that sweet spot, right? So whether I was doing engineering, whether I'm mentoring, whether I'm doing my poetry, whether I'm writing music, whatever that is, right? My animation, my acting, my whatever it is, I want to be in my sweet spot. It's not a comfort zone, could be, but for me, it's more so like this is the area where it's just like peace, ease. Right. And then the other thing about the middle is just, again, this will be part of, my third, studio album. And so my last album is called I.B. and I.B. had this whole theme about just being unapologetic about where you are when you are. Right. And I just keep saying it. It's not just about the album. It's about a movement, right? Be who you are and stand in that and be comfortable in your own skin. And so the middle is just like, once you're comfortable, meet me there and let's just have a good time and let's just party. So so if you've been rocking with me, the themes of my songs kind of always intertwine in some sort of way. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing. And I love how it intertwines with who you are. I mean, you're a woman that has led the way with so many other, leading female hip hop artists. It's a lane, right?
Yeah.
That most artists have to go and find their middle.
Right.
They got to find it because you don't want to be boxed in because you want to show that you have a unique creative lane, set apart. But you all have the same kind of goal. You love, you have the same kind of passion. But you also have a message to give within your music, within the music that you're dropping in for these times. And I think that for me, I think the middle fits to the times that we're in right now, because, we're talking about blurred lines. We're talking about undefined things that are undefined. So we all are kind of thinking, well, where is it that I fit? Where is it do I fit? Well, I can't go into this lane because this lane's taken. I can't go into the other lane because it's overcrowded over there. So I got to find where I fit right there in the middle, in the center of it all.
Exactly.
It really
and be comfortable in that. Right. I think there's so many just young ladies that a lot of times that I'll talk to or I'll mentor that just have this sense of uncomfortability with themselves, either because of just certain trauma that has happened or just their upbringing of what they see, what they've been through, and what they're going through, and what they're growing through, right? But as a result of that, it's like just let them know is like it is such a blessing and such a grace and such a peace with having that comfort within your own self, that comfort within your own skin, right? Whatever shade you are, whatever it is your passion is, right? It doesn't matter how tall you are, short, how your hair, own that, own you, right?
Amen.
Because God made you uniquely who you are. And so that's why I try to do my music as well. I'm not trying to sound like anybody else, right? I'm not trying to be anybody else, right? And it took me a minute to learn that, right? It took me a minute because starting off as a poet, I'm still a poet, but starting off as a poet in the spoken word game here in Chicago, a lot of times I would go to the open mics. I'm like, okay, he doing this and she doing that. Okay, maybe and then anytime I didn't attempt this for a long time, but initially when I attempted it, it didn't feel right. Right. I wasn't comfortable in what I was doing. And so very quickly I realized I'm going to be me, and I'm either going to be liked for that, loved for that, hated for that, whatever. I'm okay with that. And so that sort of mentality prayerfully has continued on, as I've, continued to do music and other projects and other things, and just been, I just been rocking. So to your point, I'm not far left, I'm not far right, and I'm not judging whoever may be. I'm just saying, for me, that sweet center is where I get my peace from. And if you're the same, meet me there.
Amen. I think sister to sister, meet me sister right there in the middle. I don't want to be, I don't want to be wrong, or if I can't be right or wrong, I just want to be right there in the middle with you, my sister. That's where I want to be.
Cheers to that.
Okay. We can't be, we can't be correct on all issues. Let me be right in the center, right in the center of it all. And define it,
that part
together, because that's what we need right now. We need it togetgether. We do.
We need a whole lot more of togetherness for sure.
Absolutely. It's that chain, and being in the middle, you can kind of just find a way to balance it, because the middle does not always have to be good. You choosing from the left to the right. You could be right there in the center, but yet you can find your balance. So it's balance.
That part. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Absolutely.
You see how we just had a moment there? It's all about
definitely. We thinking on the same limb, my sister. We thinking on the same limb. Yes. Sure. Absolutely, my sister. But it's amazing how you can bring poetry and being an architect, because I have an uncle who went to school, to be an architect at one point, but then he became an electrician. But that's another story. But we talk about that. But however, we can think about how all of it is can be so creative and artistic, to a point where we can find where it meets, where it connects within music. Because we can say, hey, I'm an Miss Houston is the architect of music.
I never thought about that, but I like the ring of that. I certainly do. I certainly do like the ring of that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We put Mrs. Miss Houston and Queen Latifah and
now.
Don't nobody know about Sister Soldier.
Some don't. I do. So I'm probably telling my age, but for sure.
We do, but we are not going to go that deep though. We talking about the middle, but it meets right there, and it's a centerpiece.
Yeah,
it's a centerpiece.
Sure. And I think you mentioned it earlier, right? It's just like that balance, right? Finding the center and balance of who I am as an artist and who I've been as a person and who I'm continuing to grow into as a woman. All of those things, right? There's a ebb and flow to it. And I think just with any project, right, you want to show growth and you want to show that you have something to say. At least for me. Again, I can't speak about any other artists in this game. Everybody, knows about the music industry and just how crazy and fickle, it can be. And so for me, it's just been about embracing those ebbs and flows, right? And embracing just who I am. And hopefully, whether it's 1 or 100,000 that embrace me at some point, I'm okay with that, because at least I'm touching the imprint of somebody's spirit and somebody's soul and making them feel something that's like, okay. And hopefully it's rememberable in a good way, right?
Absolutely. We can take music. We can take beautiful, creative music, like your music. And we can remember a time in our lives when we needed to be centered, when we needed to really center our focus, at a certain degree. And, and to a certain extent, it can take us back. It can actually center our spirit, Right. This is why we have choir in church. Before we enter the pulpit, the ministry of music, that's what we call it in church,
Indeed.
He brings us in. He'll bring us in,
Indeed.
And that's how we can then we can commit the service. We can start to do the service in church.
Indeed. Some people may even refer to that as foundation.
That's right. It's an architect.
So
that word
that
again.
part.
See that? It's that word again.
What you doing? What you
doing? But it's I love so when did you bring this beautiful piece of work, the middle, did it start out as a poem and then you just reworked it
It did not. It did not. It started off with my producer, h.e.r. He was like, we want to do something different with this new project. Right. And we didn't know exactly where it was going to end up. Right. The project was actually supposed to be out last December, and now we have August, right? So it took time, right? And it wasn't on my time, it was on God's time, so be it. But when it first sort of started, it just ended up being from him. He was like, okay, I'm gonna send you some stuff, but if you don't get anything from me, just write, just keep writing, not necessarily poetry, but just writing, right? Just go to YouTube and listen to certain things just to get inspiration. It just so happened that with the middle, when he sent me, to me, the music had a story to it by itself, right? And I oftentimes say that to him, like, I hear I think that's why it's such a good pairing between Ty and I, because I hear his music and it's all of a sudden something to come to me that's still real, but it was something I may not have even known was there, but all of a sudden hearing this musicality, I'm like, okay. And that's what kind of happened, like from the beginning with the horns. Right. The horns come on, and then it just kind of swelled the room to me. And I'm a huge J. Cole fan. And automatically when I heard the horns, it reminded me of something that J. Cole said, which is, this too easy. Cole said it best, right? Just in terms of like this rap stuff, it got to be about more than that. It got to be about more than that, right? Because this right here, lyrically, this too easy, right? So that's why I started off the song. This too easy. Cole said it best. Unimpressed by certain rappers' attempts, but forgive and forget, right? So it's like, I can't worry about what else somebody else doing, right? Yeah. I got to worry about the story that I'm trying to tell. And so to start off like that, off of those horns and having that beat drop like that, it was like, and the song just really kind of wrote itself, because again, I wanted it to be like, this is where I am. This is that sweet spot that I'm in my life as a woman, as a writer, as a lyricist, right? And I'm no longer going to say, please let me on the stage. Please let my songs in your store. Please let me in this. No. I'm dope, period. And that's not a cocky thing. That's a confidence of, I don't share that. If I don't share the gift that God has given me, he's going to take it away. Right? He's going to take it away. So I have to be able to embrace it in a way that says like, thank you for the grace. Thank you for the favor, right? To be able to tell these stories in a way that only I could tell them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not about the fame. It's not about, I gotta, hit this many likes and views. If it comes, it comes. I'm going to do whatever I need to do based off of what I hear God telling me to do. And so when I heard the music, like that's the song that I feel like God wanted me to write. And I went with that. And, and that's what it was. So no, it wasn't a poem initially. It wasn't even a thought initially, but the music developed the feeling in me to say, I have to be able to be confident, not just say I'm confident, but actually start spitting more confidently. So even my cadences as a rapper, even saying I'm a rapper for so long, I was like, well, I'm a songwriter. I'm a lyricist. It's like, but someone else, I would say, stand in that. Why wasn't I telling myself that? Right. And so again, the middle was kind of my testimony of that. Like, let me just stand in that. And hopefully, people who rock with me will stand with me. And if not, then that's okay too.
It was a lot. It was definitely a lot that you put into, that goes into feeling the music, getting inspired to create the music. And I love what you said about, it takes time to create the work that builds up to creating that moment within your music at that very point. Because when we look at Wu-Tang, okay,
come on now,
Wu-Tang, they took their sweet time. Okay. Yeah. When it came down to writing a piece of work, getting that work, putting that work in to their album, that was their baby. Okay. And
it wasn't rushed for sure.
It wasn't rushed. It wasn't rushed because it was a work of art. It was a work of art, and they put every bit of ounce of hours, minutes, times, who knows, they could have prayed over the album. I'm pretty sure there was some prayer in it, but they were able to create something that was worth listening to because they took their time to do it. They took their time to do it. What was it, 7 years?
Sometimes you're just a beast. Here's the thing. Sometimes you're just a beast in general, right? I mean, look at all of the songs, fellow people in the industry have said Jay-Z has just gone in the booth. No pen, no paper, right? He's just in the booth, spit, and it's like masterpieces, right? Songs that are cult classics that we're still listening to today, right? Yes, so sometimes it may take time, like in for certain artists, and then for others, it's like, this is my life, so I don't have to think about it, right? This is what I'm sharing. I don't have to think about it, right? It's just, and then to have that gift of being able to put that story and those metaphors and those lyrics together in a way, is incredible, right? That's why no one is Jay-Z but Jay-Z. No one is Kendrick Lamar but Kendrick Lamar, right? And no one is going to be Tonie but me. We can only do what we can do based off of, again, the gift that God has given us or whatever. And I'm extremely humbled by that. I'm extremely humbled by that. Like, there are a lot of female rappers that I just absolutely adore and have grown up listening to. They're like, wow, like that's them. I don't want to sound like them. I don't want to be like them, but I admire them for what they've brought to the table and the uniqueness that they've brought to the table. And I'm just hoping to be part of that legacy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said, because, there's so many of Houstons out there that I admire, that I've admired over time.
Think about it. Think about it.
There's so many, but, I couldn't compare, MC Light, because she would always come hard, she always come hard, but she had a lot that she was saying within her lyrics. She was a female in a rapping game, but she was just,
she's a rapper, like, period. It's not female rapper, rapper, period. It's not female legend, legend, period. Right. I think initially, because of the time that they came out, it was a stark difference, between male and female, and it kind of made sense for that time, 90s, early 2000s, to kind of say, okay. But I think now, at least for me, again, I can only speak for me, but for me, I don't look at it as, Nicki Minaj being one of the top female lyricists. I'm like, Nicki Minaj is one of the top lyricists, period. Yeah. Right? Whether you like her or not, like, give her flowers, right? So I think sometimes when we separate male, female, especially in industries like this, it's just like, it's just another sort of like deviation of like, okay, well, you're great for a female. To me, that's like, you cute for a dark skinned girl, or you cute for a light, like, I'm either dope or I'm not. You either rocking with me or you're not.
Yes, ma'am.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Wow. You're absolutely right, Houston. It doesn't have to be categorized only when it comes to within the style could be categorized. Sure. But however, whether it's a male or female, because it's been proven over and over again. The MC, like, she could come hard as any other guy, and still and still rock, the beautiful earrings, the hairstyles, and so forth, and still do what she does till this day, and so forth. Yep. And she, but I love the fact at the end of the day, when the cameras are off and the mics turned away and so forth, and you all are business mindset is sharp. Your business mindset is sharp. Because people don't understand that there's a lot of business that happens before the art starts to develop.
Well, it's a business first.
Yes.
If you're trying to be in it seriously, right, you have to understand the business part. I've gone to many conferences and looked at, many things online just to help me learn the business part of music, just to make sure that you're getting your right royalties and you're, making sure that your publishing is intact, especially when, in my case, where I'm not creating the music, right, I'm working with producers or a producer to do that, right? So to make sure that all of that is straight, because the hope, right, is that you have a song that gets you the notoriety of like wanting people to hear more of your stuff, right? As I always have heard growing up, you only need one. You only need one. And then it's like, hey, right. So you want to make sure that in my opinion, you always want to make sure the business is straight, because you can get caught in the creative of it. And then all of a sudden you owing people money, or, or you're not getting the appropriate amount of money on your end because you haven't done what you need to do, to really get the music out there. So for me, it's a business first, for sure.
Absolutely. In some cases, would you feel that a person would need to get structured education to understand the business side before attempting to go seriously into music? Or what are your thoughts about that?
I'm still learning, right? It's still things within this game in terms of like, because I'm independent, right? But it's still things in terms of like management and different sort of like agents and what's the best, PR, marketing. Like it's still other aspects of the industry, right? To get your music out there. There's a business aspect to get your sound right. You can't just get a mic and a mixer and start doing, you could, but to really get that quality, radio has a certain format. Pandora has a certain format.
Wow.
Even to upload your stuff to certain internet distributors, right? It has a certain format or whatever. So you have to make sure that the sound engineering and the sound mixing and the mastering and all of that, like you have to make sure that you're getting that straight too. So I wish it was just, hey, I have an idea and I want to do something on the mic and boom.
Yeah.
And I guess you could, but if you really, really want to be successful, either you need to learn it, at least a certain, degree, and then get you a team that's even smarter than you. Right. So get you a smart marketing team. It don't have to be a huge team. It could be a team of one, but get you a smart marketing team, unless you just feel like you can do it yourself. Get you a smart producer and engineer that knows how to really make you sound right. Like to me, the producers are the doctors, and we as artists, we're like the nurses, right? So we kind of get the prep and we go in, and that's important. But the doctors are going to go in and really kind of soup it up and make it right. And it's no shame in that, right? It's like, thank you for having the knowledge that you have to make me sound this pristine, right? So yeah, so get you a marketing team or, a marketing person, get you a good engineer, a good producer, get you someone on the legal side, right? Get you a lawyer, or at least, pay for some lawyer services to make sure that you understand that once that hit happens, we're doing it for a hit, right? Maybe not everybody, but I'm doing it to try to get some right. To really make an impact and an imprint. So it's like, I have 3 lawyers actually. Get you a lawyer that knows the business. Get you an entertainment lawyer. It's a lot that I'm still learning, and I'm so humbled by that, because again, life is about growth, and life is about continuing to fill ourselves with the knowledge that we need so that we're better 2, 5, 10, 20 years from now, right? And hopefully with the knowledge that we have now, we're thinking 2, 5, 10, 15 years ahead, because we can't go back. So it's definitely a business. Sometimes the business part has taken me out of my artistic element, to be honest with you. Just trying to make sure that everyone is taken care of and no one is feeling slighted and, percentages here. And it can be very daunting if you don't have people that, one, are really knowledgeable, and 2, are knowledgeable in a way that can communicate said knowledge to you, right? So that you can understand it, right? Like teach it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, because if it's computers, I know it. All day. It's music, I don't. So I'm a student in that. So teach it to me so that I understand it. Not everyone can do that, even though they may be extremely knowledgeable about it. So yeah, it's definitely a business. And hopefully, again, finding that sweet spot, right? Finding that middle of being able to balance the business and the artistic and the creative, and hopefully, making something that the world, just enjoys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said a whole lot there. You said a lot. Educating the masses, because and it is a lot. It's a lot behind the scenes. It's a lot to making a beautiful work happen, to put out to the world. There's a lot of work into it. Putting it through Nelson, putting it through to sound, and a metabase, getting it tagged correctly. There's a lot that goes into combining all the pieces, and a lot more to that, but all the elements have to come in place right there in the center as the centerpiece in order to, to craft it in a way that the audience knows that they're listening to a piece of art. They're listening to And
here's the other thing too. Yeah. Here's the thing too. Think about it. Like right now you have like TikTok and Snapchat and all of these, like, what some people would call these micro incubators of content, because you got 15, 30, 60, 90 seconds. Right. And so if you think about 10, 15 years ago, like that wasn't, you had Facebook, right? You had MySpace, you had things like that, but you would market music a different way. So, as we as artists continue to grow and get older, you have these young, the younger generation, 15, 18, 21, 25-year-olds that are killing the game on these other, on these other platforms that they may not have a lawyer. They may not have, they're not thinking about that per se. They're putting out stuff and they're going viral. They're doing their thing. And people may have different reactions to what's going viral and what that means, but it's still the fact that to me, you still have to look at how marketing is happening. And so for me, it's like, how can I as an artist stay true to the type of artistry that I want to put out in a way that's going to be true to my brand, right? But also in a way that's going to get out there, using some of these other, newer platforms, right? 5 years from now, there's a platform right now that's being created that 5 years from now is going to be popping. We don't know what it is. An 18-year-old right now is coding it in his or her basement. We don't know. Right. How do I think about how do I think about what that's going to be? Right. Yeah. So
it's amazing what all because we did not, I grew up without those technologies growing up. We didn't have a TikTok or Snapchat, I think we had MySpace, but I didn't know anything, MySpace. But, and absolutely, and someone could be creating the next big thing. I mean, now we have metaverse, I believe there was a well-known artist that was already on that platform. It was a huge thing because he was on that platform. So, I mean, there's so many different medium now that incorporate technology within the art world now.
I never thought I would live in a space that didn't really value CDs. I didn't know you would look up and all of a sudden vehicles would be made with no CD, player. I figured tapes would eventually bow out, but CDs, I thought were going to be there. Right. And so now it's like CD, if you even say the word CD now, right, to certain artists, it's like, or even to certain people, it's like, yeah, you old school. Right. Like, really? So, even DVDs, you old school. Like, so everything is just streaming and it's just different. So we have, if that's the trend, and that trend has consistently been like this in terms of change, right? So that means change is the constant, right? And so if we look at it in that way, then we have to know that in the next, 2 to 4, 3 to 5 years, there's going to be another wave, if not sooner.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we think about that? Yeah. How do we think about that? So.
Wow. Definitely. I mean, there's, Elon right now is is there a possibility maybe one day that we'll see you working with, Elon, perhaps, and doing something?
If he ever gets wind to this, if he ever sees this, right, tag him, please. Once this is done, I would love that opportunity. I mean, people say what they want about him, but he is a marketing genius. He's a marketing genius in my mind. Yes. And he obviously has even if it's not him, he has some sort of team behind him that has helped him acquire amazing fortune that he has, right? And so to be able just to sit in a room and have a conversation with him would be, it would be fun. I'm sure we would have a lot of wine and talk about a lot of different things. So, but yeah,
absolutely. I mean, because we look at art today, we see, the Black Eyed Peas, they always incorporate technology in a lot of their work, a lot of their visual work. And, you see Nicki Minaj, she's, again, every now and then you're going to see her do something with technology. And, there's a whole other list that we could think of that people are doing it right now. And I remember him stating, I think it's will.i.am, remember him stating that it's okay to sell out because that's what music is for. You sell out with the music. And you're there with your music to market, to advertise. Yeah. And that's a whole category within that. I mean, the jingles, that you're selling a company, you're selling a product with jingles, and you know what I mean? I believe Pink sold some technology with their latest album, with their latest work. So who knows with the middle, it could go political.
It could, really. It could. It's funny. I just tagged Papoose and Remy Ma because I was watching a episode called Black Love, I think it's called, on the OWN network. And if you're familiar with that with that show, it's basically a series about love, and so they have different influencers and just different people within the industry that have fallen in love, and they tell their story. And so anyway, one of the last episodes that I saw, Papoose and Remy Ma were saying that when they first met, she was kind of joking like, oh, I didn't really, I liked him, but I wasn't really saying nothing. I could tell he liked me, but he wasn't really saying nothing, whatever. And so, eventually we ended up, kind of hanging out and dating. But because of they lived in, I think Papoose lived in like one area of New York and she lived in Jersey or vice versa, but they weren't in the same borough in New York. So they would get a hotel in the middle, right? And then they would have their dates at the hotel and just kind of hang out and talk and get to know one another. And they did that for several weeks. So when I heard that within this episode the other day, I created a story and I tagged, I just had like maybe a 15-second part of my song, like the hook part. And I tagged them and I said, based off of their amazing love story, being married 14 years now and counting, the fact that, again, the metaphor of the middle and literally the middle of New York City, where this kind of helped cultivate their love and like for one another. I hope that they appreciated that tag. And when I looked at who viewed that story, Papoose had viewed that story, which was huge for me just to see his name with the little blue check. I was like, wow. So, just it let me know that one, you never know. Like once your music is out there, it's out there, right? Like people are listening to it, but whether or not the real influencers in the game reach out to you or not, it is what it is. But to see that he had looked at it for that 15 seconds, like you just never know, And so I was humbled about that. But it was just such a beautiful story. So to your point, again, the middle it's not just one thing. It doesn't have to be at least. And so hearing that story just made me think, hey, they can vibe, to that. So hopefully when he did look at it, hopefully he did.
I can actually see that being in a part of a love story because, there's so many different, archetypes to relationships. So, and it could be a polymorphous type relationship. And the person feels like they're, hey, I'm pretty much, I feel like I'm in the centerpiece. I'm in the middle. This
a polyamorous relationship.
Thank you, Ms. Houston.
That is hilarious.
Thank you, love. Of this relationship, and I can just hear it, I can just hear it kind of chiming in, in the middle, right there, in the middle. So, absolutely, it could be a sandwich, Subway.
Hey. Subway, McDonald's, it could be Walmart. Hey, if anybody is listening, looking, if anyone, gets this interview by chance, because again, this is content, right? Content is going to be going out. You never know who's going to see it. First of all, the middle, as you've heard, it's a clean song, right? It's not like I'm not, speaking vulgar or anything like that in it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's very marketable to partner with brands out there. across the board, you know, so BT, h.e.r, MTV, VH1, whatever, you know, any of these other brands out here. I'm a McDonald's, Burger King, whatever. Come on. It could be the middle sauce, the middle fry, the middle bite.
Ham and cheese, you know, and right smack dab in the middle. So,
you know, exactly. Or even like tourism, because again, like the hook is saying, you know, we hang glide with no parachute, catch waves as the release, dive deep, slide, crashing into the next day, short naps. We don't care about sleep. So it's really, it's talking about just kind of just enjoying life and being out there. So, you know, even like, you know, tourism sort of industries or whatever, like it's, you know, hang glide, whatever, like we can partner up. Hit my line.
I feel it. You know, if I'm ever hang gliding one day, that's my bucket list.
Come on, play
you know?
it. I did it. I did it in Brazil. It was amazing.
I was like, you live on the wild side.
It was amazing.
That's the wild side. Yeah.
we can't take it with us, right? We can't take anything. Well, definitely anything physical. But you know, my thing is, my hope is that whenever we transcend, right, that we can take experiences and we can take memories, and so that's what I'm about in this life, you know, as especially as an artist, just making memories and experiences and just trying to have fun. Even in times that, you know, life happens and you just kind of like, what is the positive that I can find from this particular moment? Like what lessons learned can I take from this? Even in trauma, right? Like what lessons learned can I take in that? So, you know, if I'm in the middle of trauma one day, hopefully I'll be in the middle of paradise the next. And so whatever I can do to help place me and my spirit in that, I'm always going to do. So, you know, yeah, let's hang glide. Let's not, you know, sleep the day away, because we don't know, because tomorrow is not promised. The next hour is not promised. Right. So let's be true to ourselves and one another. So.
Absolutely. Right there in the middle. It's the centerpiece of life. It's the centerpiece of life. I might make that a shirt. If so, I'll give you 20% proceeds of that. Hey, I got a t-shirt and print company. Let's do it.
Let's go. Come on.
Master Prince. Hey,
let's
hit me up. We'll make it beautiful. What you wanted to glitter and shine, make it a centerpiece. We can do it for you. Yes, indeed.
I love that.
Absolutely. You know, I love looking at the transitions of music throughout time. You know, and you know, you stood the test of time. You know, I love music, and beautiful. You know. Yeah.
I've been in the game a minute, and it's funny because there's so many people that don't know me or my music or my artistry, and that's exciting. Like I used to get really bummed about it, like but I get really excited about it now, because to me that means it's like so many other communities of people that have just yet to hear it, and I think it's a timing thing. I'll give you a quick story. One of my songs is called "I Remember." And it was actually the first song that me and h.e.r wrote together off of my first studio hip hop album that I released. That album is called Love States. And so the first song that we wrote and the first song off of that album is called I Remember. And it doesn't have a, I guess, traditional song structure. It's kind of written like Tupac's Brenda's Got a Baby, where you just kind of go all the way through, and then in the end, you know, you just kind of do a little hook part, which is one of my favorite artists and favorite songs of all time, even to today. So I wrote it purposefully like that. I didn't write it for radio. I didn't write it for anything. You know, I didn't understand songwriting in the sense of, songs have to have a certain structure to get certain airplay. I didn't know that then, right? Again, didn't know the business of that. So anyway, I wrote I Remember, and we released it on the Love States album. And 5 years to the day that song was released was when it ended up airing on Netflix's She's Gotta Have It, written and obviously directed and stuff by Spike Lee. And that was just crazy, because one, that was my first placement. Two, Mr. Lee didn't have a lot of independent artists on that particular soundtrack. I think it was like me and 2 other independent artists. So my name is literally next to Madonna and Erykah Badu in the credits, right? But it was like, in my mind, I'm like, I remember it's old, it's an old song. It's 5 years old. No one's going to want to hear, but when I submitted it, for the opportunity, and all of a sudden months later, I get a phone call from his production company, saying, hey, you're on the short list. And then another call saying, hey, you got it. That till today is just one of the greatest moments of my life, because he handpicked that. Right. And then when it came out, I posted about it. He reposted it and was like, keep going. So, just again, to be on someone like Spike Lee's radar, right. Yeah. It pushed me even more to say, it doesn't matter if a song is old to me in terms of when I released it. It's new to somebody who hasn't heard it. Right.
Yes.
Somebody right now can hear a song off of that album, 3 albums ago, fall in love with it, put it on a soundtrack. I'm good with that. So for me, it's not about, man, even with the middle, right? Like, okay, this song is, my opinion, this song is hot. It needs to be out there. It needs to be. The middle might end up catching flame 20 years from now. I might not even be on this earth, right? But it's out there. And someone might hear it, so maybe my family, my children, whatever, if I have any, will be able to benefit from it. And even then I'll be able to hopefully be in heaven and say, smiling down like that's what's up. Right. So it's about, let's just write. For me, it's like, let's just write. Let's just get these experiences out. Let's get these stories out. Let's share them in a very authentic way. Let's share them in a very unapologetic way. Right. And do it not for this quick payout. Do it for the fact that this is what I want to say. And hopefully at some point, again, 1 or 100,000 or whatever, that one person or those hundreds of thousands of people will listen to it and resonate with that.
Wow. It's a thing, I remember a lot of Spike Lee's work, and yeah, he's unapologetic. I mean, he just writes from what
absolutely,
absolutely. He envisions and what he wants to speak
absolutely.
To.
That part.
And, his music.
And he does it his way, even from his filmmaking, right? He does it his own way. He's always done it his own way.
Absolutely. And
right?
Well-respected man. I love his choices, and to have him to handpick your song, meant that he felt it was right for that time period, for his work.
Right.
It speaks a lot. Right. And, I have a brother who actually, did some beats for Dukes of DeVille. People probably don't know, but Dukes of DeVille, and it was for Perfect Strangers with Halle Berry and Bruce Willis. So he's in the credits. He's in the credits. He's got his government last name and his DJ name. And to have your name in a film that because everything is arranged in a certain way to fit the theme, to fit the theme.
Right.
So, Spike Lee, all of his structured films are they're classics. So, if they're classics, the music is classic. It's timeless.
No, I didn't think of it quite that way, but that's, okay. You just blessed me with that. You just blessed me with that, with that statement. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah.
It's a timeless piece. I was speaking with Craig Lane from Al Hudson and One Way, and that know his work. He's good at what he does. He can make a hit in a few minutes. He proved that to me. He proved it to me. I can only speak from what I heard, and just the way they craft things, it's a way to speak from what they're feeling at that point in time to make you feel what the music is about. That's when you're listening to great work. For me, it's when you're hearing I don't know, in the middle, and you say, at that point in time, I was feeling like I was in the middle of something. Whatever it could have been.
Come on now.
I was in the middle of something.
Right.
And it spoke to me to what I was feeling at that time period, but it helped me to feel like I'm not alone feeling like I'm in the middle of something. So I mean,
right.
you really can place it.
Wow.
You really can place it in any moment in time, in any film, and a person's with the person that's going through at that time, and you can just feel it. That's when you're listening to something that's timeless. For me, it hits me right there. And it makes you go back. It's just like if you're listening, if maybe for those who are old school, when reasons to be real.
Yeah. Come on. Okay.
I just showed my age there, but
I know. I don't care. It's a 15-year-old right now that knows Reasons because they know it because their parents or their grandparents then played it. So no, Reasons is definitely one of those classic tunes for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when people hear in the middle and they hear what the lyrics are saying, because I'm personally I like to. I'm not just jamming to the rhythm. You know what I mean? I gotta be right there in the lyrics, and the lyrics they gotta be saying something to me. And so when I hear,
I appreciate that.
It's just like,
and here's the other thing too. Again, because as we spoke about earlier, I was saying that the horns on the beginning of the middle, that's what got me, because to me that was a classic sort of intro, right? And so that first 10 seconds is just all instrumentation until that beat drops. And when you think about, again, I'll just say it again, the Kendrick Lamars, the J. Cole's, the Jay-Z's, Queen Latifah, UNITY, when it first kind of starts, the original version, not the radio edit, it was like that. That was about 10 seconds of and then it was UNITY, right? So just that beginning, when you heard that, you knew right? Even if you weren't a Queen Latifah fan, or if you weren't aware of her artistry at that moment, at least for me, when that song came on, it was like, okay, let me hear what's, so that's what that's the feeling that I got when I end up getting the music for the middle, which is why I couldn't let the track go. I was like, okay, regardless, I'm writing to this. But I wanted to make sure that I wrote something that, to me, the track was so elite. I wanted to make sure that I wrote something that was just as elite. Right. And so I feel like I've done that. I'm very comfortable with what I've accomplished with this last release. And I think the new music that's going to be part of, again, this new album or this new project, right? Because it might be split up into different things. I'm very proud of every single track, every single interlude that I've created. The musicality is crazy, and hopefully I'm still providing that poetic imprint, but in a way where, as my producer would say, oh no, you rapping on that one, right? It's a difference between, oh, you rapping, but you rapping on it. It's definitely a lot of them on this one that hopefully true hip hop heads will be able to appreciate the lyrical ability and the cadences and again just the flow and that pocket that I'm in now. Yes. So
the fluidity,
I'm excited about it for sure. And I feel like the middle was the fluidity, exactly. And I feel like the middle was a good first example of what's to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you're stuck in the middle, if you feel stuck in the middle,
that's it.
You need to get the middle. And if you're stuck in traffic, you need to be playing the middle. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
You need to put it on, listen to them horns.
Exactly. Have you ever been stuck on a left or right lane, and then you look over to your left or right and notice that that's the lane that's moving? Maybe not all the time, but I know it's been plenty of times where I've been over in that far right lane. I'm like, let me get over. Well, I've been over in that left lane. Let me, slide over. So, but again, as I keep saying, it doesn't have to be literal at all. But I just know for me, the middle is a centerpiece of peace. You see what I did there? Come on now. So sometimes I catch myself, Yolanda. Sometimes I catch myself. But no, it's the centerpiece of peace for me. And all I was trying to say was that if you find that same sort of feeling, spark, emotion, whatever, just meet me there, and let's just boss up and king up and queen up and just be there together to just make some good foundations, right? Yeah. So and just have a good time. Yeah, just have a good time.
I love the feeling. I love the feeling of the fluidity. The fluidity of the lyrics just took me back. Because that was the time period where I grew up. Listening to the KRS-One. And
ooh, come on.
And Dougie Fresh and all them when turntables started the movement. So so I know that it speaks to me. So I know that when it listen to it, it's going to speak to many, because you can fit it into any situation. You really can. You really can. And it's let it be I just say let the middle be the centerpiece.
Let it be the centerpiece. I'll take that. You really can. There's so many possibilities of it. I can see it as a jingle, to be honest with you. I can see it. I can see it as a jingle. Let's just pause for that verbal blessing. Let's just pause for that. Like that. Come on, amen.
Put a little cheese, put a little, a little prayer on this one, because I see it.
Right.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. That's what's
amen.
Up. I humbly receive that. For sure.
Amen.
I receive all of that.
It's just, I could see, remember the commercial that, with the raisins, the California raisins.
Yeah. Wow. Now, you know what? And that's classic. Now we both telling our age on that one, because that California raisins commercial is pretty old, but no, yeah. And people knew it from, if they didn't see it, they knew it from the sound. If they didn't hear it, they knew it from the look, right? So it had a certain classic element to it, for sure. Wow. Yeah. If this song ends up, this song is marketable, for whatever lane it's supposed to be marketed in. I think that it can go across a couple of different markets. But again, that's when we spoke about earlier about just marketing being so important, right? And being able to, brand your music in a way that's going to be true to what you want to, package it under. So, for me, I'm working on different types of press kits and different types of micro content, 15, 30, 45 second, pieces of content, either from the video or just from the audio, to send out to different people in the industry in hopes that, again, it sparks an idea for them to say, oh, what, this can be used, even, let's say WNBA. Right. If you're listening to the hook, we hang glad window, that could be one of a WNBA player dunking or something, right? Hang gliding on somebody's head, as they going up, right? Or again, if you think about Airbnb, in travel, right? I'm going here, I'm going there, short naps. We don't care about sleep, man. I'm sleeping here, I'm sleeping there, Airbnb. Like, it's so big in my mind, right? It can go. So, I think, and this is why I really appreciate your platform and just the opportunity to talk to, influencers like yourself that, give artists like me platforms to be able to speak about what we're working on or what we're doing. Because obviously without people like yourself and platforms like this, who would know?
Thank you. Right. Thank you.
And so, I really appreciate, just you bringing me into your network and your community of people and fans and audiences that follow you, that may have never heard of me, right? Like your press releases and everything were amazing, and so for your audience, like, oh, well, who was, that was more people that, I've never come in contact with, right? Who maybe have never heard of me, never listened to anything, that are now hopefully going to be new fans and followers of my work, or at least will know the name if they hear it again and say, oh, okay, yeah, right. So I appreciate you for that.
You know, I'm definitely thankful for professionals like yourself that come with all of this experience. You know, you've experienced a lot of the business ethics and definitely, you know, with your abundance of talent, you know, as well that comes with it. But as I always, you know, acknowledge that, you know, when it comes to talent, you know, there's knowledge behind that talent that brings up to the point to being to having more longevity, you know, in the industry, and be able to have that staying power, you know, and you always keep keep up with the evolution of music, you know, which is very aesthetic, you know, really is.
And it's tough. It's tough because, you know, again, you know, music is changing. How and we talked about how the marketing and all that is changing, but music as itself, right? The sound of it is changing. And so I think, you know, for me too, it's been this whole thing of like, okay, what is the Tonie brand, right? And so my brand is always about experiencing different. I have a band called the Tonie Experiment. Shout out to my band. And, you know, it's about experimenting with different tones and melodies and sounds, and right. So every time we perform, it's never sounding exactly the same, because we're always in the space of like, okay, well, you know, can we have some more, some more keys on this show, or maybe a horn, you know, a little bit more horn this show, a little bit more conga this show, a little bit more acoustic vibe this show, right? And that's purposeful. Right. So I'm all about experiencing. I'm all about experimenting, but I'm also all about having that hip hop soul element, which I do feel like the middle embodies. But I think all of my music hopefully embodies that element of like, man, are you a poet? Or man, are you a you know, you got some soul in you, you know, girl. Like I've heard that from a lot of people as well. Younger, older, my age, you know, which is always humbling, because I do want to authentically sound or provide a sound that I'm proud of, right? And that may not sound like what is popular now on radio and on these other sort of platforms, but that's okay, because that's not to knock that. It's just to make sure that I'm staying true to who I am, so that whenever I do end up getting more and more notoriety, hopefully the hope is that from influencers like yourself and other platforms, she stayed true to who she was as an artist. So I can go back a year, 5 years, 10 years and listen to her older work and say it was still a theme there that's true to her sound. It's maybe an elevated sound now, but it's still true to that same sort of sound. So I think one of my fears is that I end up, let's say I blow up, go viral, but I go viral doing something that is not really true to, I think I would feel boxed in, because now I'm like, well, are people going to expect this from me now going forward forever? Or are they ever going to accept something else? So it's about staying true to yourself.
I love everything you were saying, because it's so true. Being able to stay true to who you are, your original works, but then also gravitating to experimenting, you know. But I believe it's more so making those intricate details work and intertwine, because we can look at careers like Run DMC when they intertwine, you know, with rock and roll.
Right? Yeah, it was major.
It was big. It was big, right? You know, everybody else rocked this way. They were, you know what I mean?
Still classic.
Rock, you know, Beastie Boys. You know, they were mixing with. You know, they had a little rap and rock and roll with it. When people measure back, and even in the other alternative styles of music, when we look at Sting, you know, Sting originally he started out on punk rock. He did punk rock, you know, but then as he grew, you know, he started to develop his own group. They started to influence, you know, reggae and a little bit of alternative rock, a little bit, and it was influential. And then you see him now do Evolutions of Time, and he's doing classical works, and people still love him for it. Yeah, you know, but that's who he is.
Yeah, because again, he set that foundation too, right? So even in the punk rock days, right, as he ebbed and flowed, he may have done other areas of rock, but it was still under that umbrella, right? It wasn't until later, once he got that foundation, now it's like you can almost do anything once you get to Sting level, like Sting level is, I mean, it's just like if Celine Dion, you know, end up all of a sudden doing, I don't know, just doing like traditional jazz, she gonna have Celine Dion jazz fans because of just who the foundation that she set, right? At that level, you would just have to just do something crazy and just fall all the way off to, I mean, it's just like, you know, Snoop Dogg having a, you know, Christmas album. It's Snoop Dogg. He set the foundation to be able to, if he want to do something, do an album with Martha Stewart as well as the show he did, or if he wants to, he can do that. And you might have some haters like, what is this guy doing? But for the most part, people gonna say, yo, that Snoop Dogg Christmas album was lit. Because he's already set that foundation, right? So I think, you know, it's just about, I think it's about, again, you know, all the artists that we've spoken about, they stayed true to their initial sort of brand, their initial sort of like, this is who I am, the artist. Love me, hate me, whatever, this is what it is. And so they end up getting that niche sort of fan base that just grew. Maybe they had a popular song here and there that got, you know, more, you know, that opened up more doors in terms of, you know, more just mainstream music, but their core base is still with them regardless. I'm at that point now where I'm still continuing to work on what's the core base for me, you know, for Tonie. I think I'm getting there. I think it's going to hopefully continue to grow and, you know, and all of that. But, you know, again, people who know me as Young Flame here in Chicago from 20 years ago doing open mic sets, they rocking with me now. And they are appreciative of like, I remember seeing you at the open mic on Wednesdays at Some Like It Black. And now you got 3 hip hop. I'm like, when I hear those things, I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Like those are the ones that I'm releasing content for. If I end up getting some new ones along the way, okay. But them core ones, those are the people that's rocking with me and who gonna be with me hopefully when I get Sting status. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely, yes. You know, I love it when you see them evolved and they know their core. I think it's just knowing their core. You know,
yeah.
You can see, you know,
right, knowing your core. Yeah.
Yes,
knowing your core, which some could say is the middle,
the center,
the core. Could say just the center, just saying,
you know. Indeed. You know,
sure.
I admire artists like yourselves that you can. It's like you can do anything, you know, almost anything, and you're so influential because your music kind of gives a time. It gives note to another era, you know. Another era, another century that we're going into. Because you know, isn't it amazing where you can take R&B, the time when R&B just ruled, and it was back then. It was kind of. I think the era was like in the 90s when R&B was like strong. You know, it still is today. It's just evolved in a different way. You know. Yeah.
Right.
And then you can take grunge. Right. They had a grunge period. And then that was a mark of an era. And then you can always, you know.
Yep. And then 80s. I mean, 80s and pop music, they had their time.
Pop music, right? It was with the British invasion, let's be honest.
And all of that. I mean, absolutely. Which are still classics to me today. If I'm at a bar and I hear a Wham song, George Michael, the 80s thing, I'm having a good time. like those are classic, you know, classic songs. You know. And that's the music that I grew up, you know, Cyndi Lauper and Madonna in the 80s and 90s. I mean, again, she's continued to make music now.
Yes.
And you know, it's okay. But her stuff in the 80s and 90s, classics to me. Classics to the world, which is why she can still probably book a tour now, you know, and people would buy a ticket hoping that she's going to do her 80s and 90s catalog.
You know, because they knew her back then. So her audience is dedicated. Again, you had a dedicated audience that followed her throughout those time periods. It's like your audience. They're not going to forget Miss Houston was a time in the era when they, when they were going to school.
I hope not.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He was like, oh, that's.
I hope people that I went to. I hope people that went to grammar school and high school and college. I hope they do remember in a good way. Just like, yeah, she used to rock those shows or this and that, right? I mean, because it's a grind, right? It's a grind to keep wanting to develop content in an organic way, right? For me, it's about like people say, well, what do you write about, right? And it's like, I could write about the glass of wine I had, or I could write about, but it's like, is it really organic to really what I want to talk about? No, right? So it's a grind, in my opinion, to really stay authentic to kind of speak to what's kind of going on, right? Because people are listening to us. And so I think that's why you have so many, different types of artists. Like some are going to be political, some are going to be relationships, some are going to be, industry, and you have to be able, or the glitz and the glam and the cars and the sex and this and that. This is stuff that's going on, right? That's why, like when Cardi B and Megan came out with WAP, my whole thing is, if I listen to a Too Short album back in the day, right? Why can't I listen to WAP? They talk about sex. He was talking about sex, right? It's going on, right? Men are liking what they're talking about. Women are liking what they're talking, right? So it's like, it made me crazy how, like, all of a sudden it was like so many men in it. It's like, oh wow, so this and that. Really? Like Luke and 2 Live Crew, we were listening, we were at the parties, we were dancing, right? So it's just like, we have an obligation, to speak about these things. And I may not necessarily be talking about WAP in my music, but I'm not going to dog it, because that's a reality of what's going on, right?
Happening today. Yeah.
But it's a grind though, stay authentic. And so for me, I'm happy that every day I wake up still wanting to be in that grind in the midst of everything else I'm doing on the STEM side, with the engineering and the architecture and with the animation and even on that other side of the entertainment piece with the modeling and with the acting. Like it's a grind to stay and want to be relevant in all these areas, right? But in my mind, it's about doing good work, making good music, making good content, and having people like yourself and platforms like you acknowledge that and resonate with that. That's humbling. And I'm grateful for that.
I know I'm grateful for artists that can mark a time period. Definitely can stand the test of time. And Miss Houston, you stand the test of time. You speak to the audience. You were speaking to an audience back in the day, but now you're speaking to a whole new audience, and you know how to reach them. And it takes a certain type of intellect to understand who your audience is, who your target audience is. And maybe there's no target. Maybe everyone can enjoy your work, your art, that you put out to the world. So, we always want to put everything in a box.
That's really the goal.
Right?
Yeah. Right. That part.
And
that part. I hate that whole term of like, what lane are you in? What it's like, why can't I just it's funny you say like the whole in the box thing, because I remember just a few years ago I put myself in one. And since a lot of my entertainment friends and associates knew nothing about my world in STEM. And then a lot of my associates, friends in STEM knew nothing about my life, in music, in terms of like how dedicated I was to both, right? I have careers in both. I make a living in both, right? They're not hobbies to me. And so, but I put myself in this box of like, when I was in this lane, I was focused on that. When I was in this lane, I was focused on that. And if just a few years ago, probably about maybe 4 or 5, I'm like, why am I putting myself in this box? Why am I putting myself in this, and like constraining myself in regards to what I'm able to do? right? I'm able to think on both sides of the brain. I'm able to work on both sides of the brain, left and right, right? And not everyone can do that. So why am I limiting myself because of, it wasn't even a reason. It was just like, right? And so that was the motivation for that IB album, right? To be like, I am who I am, right? If I happen to be able to work in these other areas, so be it, right? That's Absolutely. A blessing. I'm happy about it. But it was something within myself that was just, I was muting myself. I was muting my voice of music in the STEM world, and I was muting my STEM voice in the music world. And I was like, stop doing that. Right. And so once I did that, once I broke free of that constraint, I just became, I feel like a better person and definitely a better artist for sure.
Wow. It's kind of a stigmatism that, creatives have. We tend to get at a certain point to where we get writer's block. It's like writer's block in a sense. You hit a plateau and, you're like, well, I've done everything else. Where else can I take this now? I've done this avenue. I've gone to this avenue. I've gone down to this avenue. So where am I going to take it now? This is 2022. What are some of the things that I can incorporate in this era in 2022? Have you thought that way, in a sense? You thought
and no, you're right. And here's the other thing too. What's wrong with basking in all of your gifts? Just a question, right? Like you say, you are an interviewer. You have you're a podcast host. You have a t-shirt company. Like you have several gifts, right? Many people have more than one gift. But sometimes there's a thing that happens where, again, we just can constrain ourselves.
Absolutely. Because, we all have our people that we admire and, in that realm. And when we get to that space where we want to absorb that creativity within that person because we admire it so much. So I think I had a conversation, with someone who was a fan of one of my guests and they didn't know that, I said, sometimes, they're like everyone else, they have to stop to get a bite to eat during a recording session, just to re-energize, come back into it. And they're just, and then all of a sudden the energy is up and the creativity is at 110. At that point, I had to remind her, I said, we all can we admire something about a person. We all tend to ruminate. Yeah. We all tend to ruminate, what's going to happen when we meet someone that shares the same passion, because she shared the same passion. And I said, I said, well, think of it like this. You at that very moment met someone that had the same, that's doing what you want, what you admire for so long. So that's a moment where you could have just asked any question you could have asked. Sure. And that could have been like a learning moment, more than just the experience of just being in that person's presence at the time. Yeah. Because it's more than that. You're sharing that energy.
For sure.
And you could have asked that moment, that was insightful moment there for you. Yeah. So there was nothing wrong with that. It's insightful. You grew. Right. It was growing pains for you. It was growing pains for this
I get
person,
that.
To learn.
I get that.
It's a way to, we don't know what's going to go what's in our path at that very moment, what we're going to come across. That's going to influence what we're going to be doing at the next time that we have a creative thought. And I think that's what artists go through every day. They're influenced by their environment.
Yeah, I mean, I say all the time, people ask me like, oh, what do you write? Like, what inspires you to write? And I'm like, it's what I've gone through. Like, so you would never hear a song from me. And you haven't heard a song thus far from me that's talking about something that either I haven't gone through directly, or I've been so close to the situation that I felt like I was, close enough to be able to write about it, because either it happened to, family, a friend, or, something like that. So And again, that's not knocking anyone else who may talk about something else that they haven't gone through, but I just feel like there's an authenticity that happens when you're able to tap into and put words to what you're going through, so any sort of trauma that I've gone through, growing up or whatever, like I've always wanted to be able to, if I felt like talking about it, have the freedom to talk about it, right? Whether that's in poetry or in music, because I'm not the only one in the world going through it, right? Even though I may feel like that in whatever moment, I know that that's not true. And so someone else could hear it and be healed from it, right? And be able to say, wow, like I was able to get through that next day. And so for me, that's really, really powerful. I wrote a poem one time. It's one of my signature pieces called Dear Mama. And, it's about just me growing up and my mom's and our relationship. And it really was like a letter, it was like the letter that I was, writing to my mom. And it was about her previous substance abuse. And, I'm so proud of her, now being, almost 20 years clean and sober. It's an amazing journey, amazing battle of just perseverance and strength. But when I first wrote that particular poem, I would go and I would travel a lot and I would say it, to different like high schools or like YMCA and, in different like youth groups. And this one young lady one time came up to me and she was nervous and she was like, and my moniker was Young Flame at that time. And so she's like, oh, Miss Young Flame, I really, appreciated your poem. And she was saying how her mom had unfortunately passed away from drugs, but she was being raised by her grandmother and her dad wasn't really around. He was kind of battling his own things, but hearing and seeing someone that looked like her, right, that had made it through that and had an example of a mom that did make or a parent that did make it, it gave her hope that hopefully her dad would come through. And even if he didn't, just gave her hope that she could be whatever she wanted to be, right? By seeing someone that was saying, hey, the world is so much bigger than that 1 or 2 or 3 block radius from your window. And I'm an example of that, right? Whatever path you choose to take, even if it's not directly, directly similar to mine. So that young lady, it just always, I've always talk about that when I can, because that moment in time left an imprint on me of like, what you're doing is valued. The stories that you're sharing and telling are valued and they're important and they're relatable. And it's a reason why God has given you the ability to write, the ability to speak it, the ability to share and do that in a way that's authentic, and unapologetic, right? Not in a cocky way, but to say, this is who I am. This is part of my story. I can't be who I am without sharing my story. Right. And so for her to be able to acknowledge that and take something from it in a positive way was it not only made my day, but it continues to make my career, because I always remember in those moments of like, man, it's hard to write or whatever. It's like, but it's that one person who's waiting for that story, who's waiting for that song. Right. So that motivates me. Yeah.
Amen. It really does mark a moment in that person's life that's listening. They need that, they need that moment where they're listening to a person speak, spoken word in those lyrics, and it helps them to get over a moment in their lives. Lay Me Down is one song that people can, really relate to, because they lost at one point in time, we've lost a loved one in our lives. So when they hear that, they can once again kind of meet them in the spiritual realm, right, where they are now. So unapologetic, and could be something that they can feel like, I can't apologize for what transpired, but I remember, I remember what transpired, and I want to apologize. Maybe they feel like releasing what they need to,
or just hearing something as confirmation to I'm not alone, right? Like I thought I was especially if you're a young person in this world trying to navigate, right? Just to say to yourself, like, wow, okay, so I'm not the only one that has, parents that are struggling. I'm not the only one that's, dealing with maybe not being in a 2-parent household or not having parents that I feel like loved me or whatever, right? Everybody's situation could be a little different. And that's not to say that people are only bond during trauma, right? But I think, me being a researcher, right? If we were to do the data, it's a lot of people that do bond from trauma, good or bad, right? Because they want to feel as though they're not out here alone. And so in that situation with that young lady, I felt like that was a confirmation for her of like, you made it, right? In whatever way she feel like, in whichever way she defined made it, right? But you made it, you're here at my school speaking about it, telling your story. So that lets me know, if nothing else, that's one example of someone who's in a similar situation that I am in right now that made it. And seeing that's making it okay for me today and maybe even tomorrow, right? That's powerful. And those sort of sentiments I don't take for granted. Because it's a confirmation to me, right? To keep going, keep writing, keep growing, keep sharing, keep digging inside of myself, to really, be authentic and tap a little deeper into something.
Absolutely. Has anybody ever walked up to you, Ms. Houston, and said something about your song made them feel something?
All the time, different songs, right? Different songs or different forms, but all the time. Like the song, the project that I released before the middle, was a project called Unapologetic, that was produced by a amazing producer out of New York named Carlisio Keys. And what's funny is that he and we never met physically. We met during COVID, and he happened to hear a song of mine called Flippant that was produced by h.e.r. And I went to his live, and he was playing piano and guitar. I'm like, man, this guy is super talented. And so just reached out to him. I was like, would love to work with you, yada, yada, yada. We end up working together, and we released Unapologetic. And Unapologetic was, a project where a lot of people, when I released that, would come to me, male, female, young, old, whatever, age in the middle, whatever, was like, I resonate with that, right? Because the hook of that, it starts off with just me saying, I can't. And, Black women, a lot of times will say that, like, I can't even do it. Like, I can't, right? Like, it's just one of those, like, colloquialisms that we just say, like, I can't, whatever. So I felt like the hook alone was going to be, relatable, right? Just because of that. But even the video that was done, shout out to Josh Jones, who made the video, and directed the video, even the visual, the song, it all just kind of worked together in terms of showing things that's like happening nowadays, in this world, that's just like, I can't deal with that. I'm not going to deal with it. I'm going to speak up. I'm going to stand for this. I'm going to not stand for that. Right. It was just about being unapologetic in your skin. And so I still get people now like, yo, that song, I felt you. I felt you on that one. It's not only catchy, but when I listen to the lyrics of what you were saying, and when I look at the video of what you were portraying, I get it. And that's what, Carlisio and I wanted to do, like just make something that was impactful. So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, yes, for sure. And it's always very, very humbling to hear people say like, it made me feel happy, or it made me feel angry, or it made me feel, like someone cares, right? Or made me feel more like myself, right? Whatever the feeling. A very short story. That was the reason why my name was Young Flame. It wasn't because I felt like I was hot shit or whatever. It was Young Flame because people would come up to me on the poetry circuit And they would just talk about how they were, after I would do a poem or I do a set, they would just feel so much emotion because of how I was evoking whatever I was saying. And so with that, it was like, wait a minute, I'm sparking something in people. What's a spark? A young flame. Right. And so that's where that name, came from, of like, wow, okay. So it's always been in me to want to leave an imprint with people.
You have so many, you've told so many inspiring stories this evening. And I really want to thank you for being that flame
thank you.
That we all need in life, to listen to ignite our flames, to ignite our passions, to ignite us to speak about what might be going through our minds when we're listening to a Tonie Houston song, to the lyrics, and just turning the light on in our minds and our spirit, and just invoking us to say, you know what, I may be in the middle, but I'm not stuck.
That part.
I'm not stuck.
That part. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Y'all got to go out and y'all got to go out and listen to the middle. Y'all got to go out. And
it's available everywhere. Obviously, I'm pushing people to my website, because Spotify gives us pennies on the dollar. But if you go to my website, which is iamtonie.com, iamtoine.com, it's my EPK and everything, press kit and everything. So you can go in there, stream, download my music. But it is also available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Pandora, everywhere. And then the video is on YouTube. So, and that's just under my channel, which is Tonie Houston.
Amen. Y'all, just go in the middle,
right,
of Google and pick up and listen to that. Listen to the middle.
Go to the top or go to the middle of your screen on Google. Boom. Type in DA middle, right? Or type in Tonie Houston, TOINE Houston, like Whitney, no relation that I know of.
Okay.
And please type it in and just please continue to follow me, follow my journey. Again, I have new music that's coming, more new music that's coming out this year. And I'm excited about it. More videos, all of that. I'm excited about it. So again, thank you for the opportunity, for sure.
Absolutely. I enjoyed you. You're such an amazing woman. You make so much impact and everything. And y'all, get in the middle.
Be the center of your own life.
Okay.
Of your own life. That part. Thank you so much.
Amen. Miss Houston, thank you so much for coming this evening. We enjoyed you, and can't wait to have you back. I'm gonna go. We're gonna go now.
Yes,
and we're gonna listen to the middle. And that's right. Cool. Right now, y'all.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Miss Houston, for coming to Radio and
Take care.
Entertainment.
Okay. You too. Bye.
Have a good night, y'all. Take care.